The following podcast is a little fiery but mostly peaceful. If you're an automaton, turn away now and shelter in place. If you're a Catholic ready to renew your prescriptions of red pills and white pills, stay tuned. Hello and welcome to Catholics Aren't Zombies. I'm your host, Chris Munier. Delighted to have you once again. Well, I'm going to give zombies a little bit of credit on one thing. One thing that zombies don't do, in the midst of all their groaning and walking around and always on the prowl for brains, because they don't have any. One thing they don't do is they don't panic a bunch. And they certainly don't panic about the end times. Yeah, today's show is about the end times. This is going to be more of a rant than an actually organized show. I just feel like doing a rant today. It's Friday. Don't eat meat on Friday. Don't eat brains ever, like the zombies. Yeah, so we're going to rant a little bit today. And if you don't like it, well, go watch another podcast. So the end times. Everybody's panicking, losing their mind. Cats and dogs living together, the end times. This is what everybody's been worrying about. Maybe for a year and a half, but particularly since the election usurpation, everybody thinks the sky is falling. And I get it, okay. You know, this is not me going to pick on anybody in particular, because to thine own self be true. Maybe I'm guilty of it as well, focusing a little too much on the eschaton and, you know, whether this really is it for us because we're fully embracing world communism, this and that. Okay, you know, I understand. I get where it's coming from. I'm not making fun of anybody's anxiety or fear. I know how that can be. A lot of different things that can lead into that. But we are losing our mind as it comes to this. We're spending all of our time worrying about these private revelations about what's going to happen here, there, and everywhere. You know, Our Lady of La Salette, Our Lady of Good Success, Our Lady of Fatima, Our Lady of Akita, Gira Brandal, Mega Georgie, whatever it is, Our Lady of Chernobyl. There's probably one that's like that. There's about 1 billion different private revelations right now, and we don't seem to know what to do with them. And so what do? We just go nuts and panic. But the message is really the same from each and every one of them if we just pay attention the right way. All we got to do, focus on penance, pray the rosary, dedicate ourselves to God, pick up our cross, and carry it. Now is not the time to drop your cross on the ground, sit on top of it, and drink a beer. That's what people are doing. And yes, I get it. We're going to endure this dictatorship, probably. Everybody's worked up about Biden and his executive orders. Okay, I get it. I did the math the other day. I think if you give him about 4 years, a full 4-year term, he's on pace for about 6,000 executive orders, which would pretty much make us a dictatorship. We don't even need Congress anymore. And, you know, that 6,000 would be more than FDR, like double what FDR did in 12 years, just to give you some perspective. But I want to also give you some other perspective, is that this has been in the works for a long time. You think executive orders popped up yesterday? Well, they've been going nuts with the executive orders from the White House since Teddy Roosevelt. Now, look it up if you don't believe me. He had well over 1,000 or so, but his predecessors before him, they'd had maybe 10 or 12. I think Benjamin Harrison, who's a couple presidents before him, only had a few. So it really became a thing with him during that stupid progressive era, and it's just snowballed out of control ever since then. So let's not act like this just popped up overnight. This has been a long time coming. The best advice I can give you here is to stop worrying about the dictatorship. Yeah, it's going to be bad. You know what? They might freeze people's bank accounts if you don't get vaccines. They might make you wear 2 or 3 masks just to step out your front door. They might introduce pornography into sex education in the public schools if you're still stupid enough to send your kids there. They might send you to FEMA camps, even if you so much as utter one word that would be construed to the right of Karl Marx. You might lose all ability whatsoever to go to church, receive the sacraments, all of that stuff. But we knew this was coming. Again, let's go back to one of the apparitions, Our Lady of Akita, that the only thing we might have left at some point is the rosary and the sign that her divine son left for us. So we're supposed to be prepared for this and to anticipate it anyway. Does no good to panic. We gotta stop depending on all these worldly, material sorts of things to guide us through everything. Are you still making 5 or 10 year plans? I mean, those have been a worthless idea for the better part of the last 20 years. When was the last time you saw somebody actually execute an effective 5 or 10 year plan and they didn't just get lucky? Well, now we know we're going to have to start living in the present. panicking about the future or thinking that we're going to somehow stealth ninja our way through things. We're going to outsmart the evil. Probably not. We're going to have to wait till it falls apart. One good piece of practical advice I would give anybody is to learn how to live beneath your means. Because we know that the evildoers out there, they tend to get us one really particular way. With the creature comforts, with all the material stuff in the world. They'll slowly, because they've already done it, they'll slowly start to chip away at that. They'll start pulling things away from us, or they'll put strings attached to all sorts of things that they want to shove down our throats, like the vaccine, like being able to go to work, like the social credit stuff that they cooked up in China. That's coming here. So they're going to tempt us, and they're going to hold these over our heads like a sword of Damocles, and it's going to be up to us to whether we're going to accept it or not. And the only natural ways that we can combat that, outside of prayer and fasting and all that stuff, is you're going to have to live beneath your means. Not within your means, beneath your means. In other words, your expenditures are going to have to be greatly beneath your revenue. You're going to have to get crafty. Gone are the days of dropping $5,000 on a vacation without thinking about it. Gone are the days of buying some stupid car you can't afford. Gone are the days of accidentally going to college and majoring in something stupid. Gone are the days of living in an apartment building that costs you $3,000 a month when you could have lived in a different town and paid $600 a month. And while we're talking about financial stuff, don't rest all your hopes and dreams on the stupid stock market. So this is maybe one spot where I diverge from Dave Ramsey a little bit on. Dave Ramsey's great on finance. He knows it inside and out. And for the most part, everything he says is practically true. Very good practical advice. However, he's overly dependent upon the stock market. He'll tell you mutual funds all day and all night. That might finally collapse now. Don't put your hopes and dreams in that. That's only been a good model since the 40s. And the only reason that worked was because of the stupid tax hikes back then, and how mutual funds were really a safe haven for getting away from it. That's why they call them tax shelters. Well, that might not work a whole lot longer. Not when they shove UBI down everybody's throat. Not when we go from what we're at now, $30 trillion in debt, to maybe $50 trillion. Not when the currency falls apart finally. Not when China calls our bluff on it. You wonder why China has so much influence on us. Come on, these things are not hard to see. They own our debt, they own our politicians, and it's this way because we didn't oppose them. Same thing with Roe v. Wade. We got that forced upon us because we didn't oppose it. Over the last 100 some odd years, we've compromised with the left. They never compromised with us. Has the left ever compromised with libertarians and conservatives? No. I can't think of a single example. Don't tell me NAFTA, by the way. That was totally a globalist scheme. Bottom line, leave all the financial stuff aside. Leave all the political news cycle stuff behind. You've got to stop spiritually panicking. It won't do you any good. You'll lose your mind. I see this with that 3 days of darkness stuff, right? Because that goes hand in hand with all the end times panicking. So people are either panicking the end times are on the way, or it's just a different version of it. And, oh no, the 3 days of darkness are coming. I better tape up all my windows with aluminum foil. I better make sure I've got 2 or 3 dozen blessed candles all over the place. And then you see these people on the internet message boards are talking, oh, darn, I don't know. How's my candle going to light itself when there's no light on the 3rd days of darkness? Or what's going to happen if I don't have a candle that's big enough? Or, oh, darn, I don't know if there's enough beeswax in it. Or this and that and all this hemming and hawing. It's, guys, do you really think this is how it's meant to be? Do you think this is how we'll be tested? That, our salvation at the last second is going to depend upon whether you got enough beeswax and a stinking candle? Come on, guys. You got to get in the ballpark. You got to ballpark me. This is just, come on. And again, I get it. People are a little scared, a little on edge. Maybe you've lost your job. Maybe you don't understand why it seems like people might be dropping dead from a vaccine. Or what's the full scope of this stupid virus thing, even though we're, now like a year into it. But the bottom line is, it's just as it's repeated over and over again in the Holy Scriptures. Fear not. Fear not. That's one of the most important messages. Those 2 words appear over and over again. Don't let people sell you a whole bunch of goods. There's a lot of charlatans out there who are going to try to make a buck on you, including particularly the media folks. They are using this end times panic, the world's coming to an end business, as disaster porn. And every time you buy into it, you're watching disaster porn. You might want to get you some covenant eyes for the disaster porn too, if this is how it's going to be. Just something to think about. Even the ones you like, you better believe they're taking advantage of it. They're going to sell you all the prepper stuff. They're going to sell you those 100% beeswax candles, and you're going to buy way more of them than you really need. You're going to get on that newsletter that tells you what to be prepared for the end times. What stuff you ought to already be prepared for. The fundamentals haven't changed. You know not the day nor the hour. And I know, okay, it might be egg on my face completely if after the release of this podcast, a week later, we really do hit the end times. But even then, who cares? Well, the end times had to happen at some point anyway. All right, it happened now. It happened next week. It's not going to matter at Judgment Day. We don't get any better of a judgment because we panicked close to the end. It's not going to help one bit. Goats are still going to be goats. Sheep are still going to be sheep. So get your spiritual house in order. You've probably heard it already a bunch of times. This is more of a pep talk than anything. I certainly hope it helps. But other than that, quick episode today. God bless. Keep your head on you. Go get some exercise. Go out and go for a walk if it's not raining or cold. We just came out of winter, so it was kind of miserable. The weather's going to get nice again. So even if you can't go to church on Easter, well, if it's nice out, hey, go celebrate outside. Go for a picnic. Tell the mask mandate, face panty wearers to get bent. You're a human being. You have dignity. Enjoy it. And so if you enjoyed what you hear here, if you enjoyed what you've heard on this podcast, I'd invite you to check out my blog, Ditch the State, Love Holy Church. Subscribe to the podcast. I got to remind you guys to subscribe more. And then also check out my book, Caesar for Contism, Rendering to Caesar, When Caesar Goes Nuts. That's all I got for you. Have a good one. Deus Volt. Cue the music.